Welcome back to Danny Rants. Today, as always, I have a very special guest on the podcast. When you talk about nightclubs in Melbourne, there is one that sticks out, and it goes by the name of 161. Arguably, not even arguably, I don't think, but one of the most exclusive nightclubs to ever hit Australian shores. One of the owners and founders of 161, Andy Sumpter, sitting directly across from me to talk about this insane journey that is 161. How are you today, Andy?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for coming down. We caught up a couple of weeks ago. We touched base, and as I said, you've been a bit of a bucket list one for me to talk about this venue. So I'm super pumped to get into this one.
Nice, good to be here.
I appreciate it. So firstly, right, let's take it back where you were originally from. So you're obviously a hospo before you started 161.
Yep.
Your journey into hospitality, like how did you fall into this crazy mayhem space?
I'd recently returned from overseas. I had a big break and took off and travelled for a few years and came back and hooked up with a guy called Scott Eccleston, who was a receiver manager for PricewaterhouseCoopers, which at the time were the biggest licensee holder in the country, because this was the recession of the late 80s, and a whole pile of pubs had been bought, they'd been done up, and they'd gone arse up because the arse fell out of the dollar, so all of them were in receivership. So he had a team of people that went to all these different pubs and tried to resurrect them for some kind of sale. So that's where I sort of cut my teeth, was working for bean counters and accountants, where they say, oh, here's X amount of money, you've got to run the pub for the week and you need to make this. So that was reasonably good grounding. From there I went to the Armadale Hotel in High Street, Armadale, which was a great live band venue, one of the best. It had a great band room upstairs, had a room out the back with 4 pool tables and a stage, and that operated 7 nights a week, and it was an absolute cracker. And after that, I sort of moved around. I worked at Revolver for a little while when that first opened and went, that's a great concept. And I'm not sure how it happened, met Benny Roney, knew Hank, and knew Gus, had worked with Gus at the Armadale. And somehow we all got together and went, this place. And I don't know how we actually found it. I think Benny had found it, and I think I had found it, but we hadn't actually had communicated with each other about it. But then we did start talking, and we sort of had common ground and went, okay, well, let's have a crack at this. So that's basically how it started. And we picked it up for a song, for nothing. And I think including buying the business and its first iteration, which the 4 of us all practically worked in, I think it was about 180 or 190 grand to buy it and set it up. And it was, vastly different since then. We've expanded the business quite a bit. And
Because it was just the one room, wasn't it, originally?
yeah, it was just originally that first floor with a real skinny staircase, and yeah, just the front rooms and the room where the dance floor is now. And then there was only 2 toilets up there, and we sort of over the years just expanded it more and more and more.
And the whole 180K, like that, someone listening might go, oh, that's not that bad, like, or, might think it's expensive. But in these days, you're talking to build something like what you guys did, like back then, you're probably talking, you wouldn't have much change left over for $1 million these days to build a nightclub.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I've often looked at what people have spent sort of on their venues and always equate it to, that's a lot of beer you've got to sell, or that's a lot of vodka you've got to sell. And it's right place, right time, that kind of thing. Although saying that, when we did actually open 161, we were really concerned about where we were positioned on the street, because in that stage, all the action was down over Commercial Road, and there wasn't anything up our end at all except for Revolver, and then the first sort of La La Land, which was called Muddy Waters, which was a cracking old blues bar.
Which is now electric, right?
No, not electric. Electric.
Because that was called La La Land too for a little bit. I'm sure of it. Oh, no, Electric Ladyland it was called.
Electric Ladyland,
yes,
yeah.
Yep.
I don't know how they got that through. That was Kerry, mate, and he was odd. But Yeah, no, it was called Muddy Waters, which was the original La La Land up there, and I think Kerry actually bought that and turned it into La La Land, and that was it. And the rest of it was old furniture shops and shit, and the Union Hotel and the Swan Hotel, which is now the Wharf of Windsor. They were the only venues there.
And that side of Chapel Street was pretty rough. Like I know back when you talk about, early 2000s for me, you'd kind of go there to buy paraphernalia or, like a legal cigarettes over the counter at the tobacco shop or it was the bad side of Chapel Street really.
Yeah.
Or the eclectic side is probably the better term, right?
Yeah, more eclectic than anything else, I think. But it was just old. It was not noticed. And yeah, the Union was called the Lizard Lounge. That's right. And that was amazing because that had a 5 a.m. license. They used to do live bands out the back of that just rocked. And that was a good little venue. But our biggest concern was are we close enough to the action?
Crazy.
On the corner of High Street and Chapel Street.
Now that's where all the action is.
Yeah.
Which we're going to get into. So before that, right, you're working in the Armadale and it's a band pub, right?
Yeah.
So you cut your teeth with bands. Was there some like big bands and stuff that went through there that are notable to talk about?
Armadale, AC/DC, everything. Every major Australian act played there. I was young. I wasn't there when they played, but I remember after a couple of months of working there, I went through the archives and had a look, and it was like Ice House, In Excess, Cold Chisel, AC/DC, all of these bands that cut their teeth, Midnight Oil, all of these amazing iconic Australian bands had all played at this one room, and it probably held about 600 or 800 people. I think the biggest act that we had when I was there was the Angels.
Still massive.
And that was with Doc Neeson. So, they were big times. And then there was a real groundswell of good Australian bands in the early 90s, your UMIs, and I think we had Silverchair there when they were the Innocent Criminals.
Yeah, wow. Jebediah, Magic Dirt, all those sort of bands.
Magic Dirt, I can't remember Magic Dirt. Jebediah, definitely. Frenzal Rom.
Love that band.
Frenzal Rom was one of the best acts up there because they were so punk. And the funny thing, the one thing I take away from the Frenzal Rom night was the lead singer, I don't know what his name was.
Jay, his name is.
But he was getting super excited and the stage was low. So the headroom, there was not much headroom on the stage, and he's taken this flying leap and he's put his head through no, it wasn't plexiglass, it was just that thin aluminium sort of filling, and got stuck. So for half a song, there's just this pair of legs fucking dangling, and the rest of the band are just looking, going, no, we're not going to help you, mate. You're on your own. You have to get out of that one.
That's the best. I love watching them. They're actually insane. Every time I go there, I have way too many beers when I watch them.
But these guys, the live music scene it was really alive back then too. There was this explosion where Triple J was sort of playing all these different acts, and during that time, the sort of late 90s, the live band scene was so alive and well in Melbourne.
And that was Big Day Out too, obviously, was probably accredited to it at the same time.
I think that had a fair bit to do with it. Viv and Ken have, really set the standard, I reckon, for those big outdoor shows.
So going from that, right, live music, when you think of 161, you don't think about live music. So I know the venues you've worked in previously were live music venues. Yeah. How do you kind of go from a live music background into one of the most notable DJ spots there is?
$1 million question. I have no idea how we wound up. I think you've got to give credit where it's due, and Benny Roney and Gus were both. They were on the cusp of that house music sort of bit progressive kind of scene, of which I was like, dude, I like fucking Tool, and my partner Hank was in a band called Bigger Than Jesus, so he was a full diehard metalhead. We were full diehard metalheads, but it was like, okay, this is where I think it's going, and at the time I was also looking after the Prince of Wales in St Kilda. I ran the public bar down there, and this was when we first set up 161 because it was making fuck all cash, and I had to have another job to sort of pursue the dream, so to speak, of owning your own venue. And they were sort of really starting to get into a lot of housey stuff too. And I think this was before One Love, or One Love may have just started as I was working there. And then it was like, wow, this is taking off. And of course, with my other job with the receivers and everything like that, I used to run a pub in Albert Park, and Friday nights we'd go to this little joint called Razor. And I'm sure you've heard of Razor. You had Gavin here a while ago. That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And it was the kind of place that I tell staff about today, and they look at me as if I've got two heads. But it set the benchmark for everything that is a nightclub in this town. That kind of whole almost loungy kind of vibe, but then there's a room where it's just boom. And I always remember going into Razor after work on a Friday night and just thinking, what the fuck is this? It's awesome. And the music to me was like, yeah, this is crazy shit. It's not rock and roll, and it's not anything that I'd ever seen before or heard before, other than, listening to background stuff. But it was like, no, there's something here. And the people that are lining up to get into this place, they're all serious about it. They are all music aficionados. They understood it. And just by hanging around that kind of environment, it's sort of like, okay, this is a whole new world to me, but it's something that we can do. And there's a growing market for it, because rock and roll at that stage, it was starting to die out, or it wasn't as strong as what it was.
So in those first days of 161, because I actually saw something there, tell me if I'm wrong here, but it said that you had Wolf Mother there.
We did. We used to do Thursday nights. We used to do a bit of live music there, and we did. We had Wolf Mother and I want to say British India. I'm pretty sure they played there.
They're Melbourne based, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you the rest of them, mate. My memory's not what it was.
I think that's all nightclub owners.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of things that's like, I can't remember whether that was in 2002 or 2018.
That's the best.
Like we've had 25 birthdays. I can remember 7 of them. But that's not just from being completely buckled or anything like that. That's just what I can actually remember.
Yeah, I get you.
The ones that just stood out from the rest.
Yeah.
And the themes of them have always been off their nut.
So the 4 guys that come together, right?
Yeah.
What and how did you come together? And I guess what's a little bit of background on those guys? Because is it surfing that you guys knew each other, or you knew each other, or you all did surf?
No, we from surfing, no, not at all. But I'd worked with Gus at the Armidale. Gus was the band booker. So Gus was also a DJ experimenting, but I think he was doing top 40. If I'm getting it wrong, Gus, let me know. I'm sure you will. But I think he was just sort of starting to branch into house music and things like that, because he used to play it when there was no one else there. I think he'd just do a bit of practice upstairs, and I'd be sitting in the office going, what the fuck is this? But he was the band booker, so him and I had a really good connection. I'd known Benny. I reckon I might have met him when I was 15 or 16 years old. Just a dude around town that I knew from going out to different places like Subterrane. I met him at Subterrane, which was the top end of Flinders Street. That was in the 80s. And Hank used to come into the Red Eagle Hotel, which I ran. I think he lived across the road, or his girlfriend lived across the road, or something like that. And through the band bookings that we had there, I got to know him, because we used to have a lot of what was around the corner from Premier Artists, and I think they were all booked through Premier Artists. And it used to be their local, so they'd come down, and we just hit it off, and we've been mates for forever now. And we have the strangest business relationship you've ever had. I think in 25 years you can count on one hand the amount of times we've actually really gone toe to toe over an issue. So, I've had a better relationship with him than I've had with a couple of ex-girlfriends, which is odd.
That's a good way to put it, though.
Yeah.
And
So-
very rare.
Yeah, and especially in this game. Gus and Benny went their own ways, and I'm not even going to go into that.
Well, Benny, he's the owner of Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Benny,
which is
yeah.
a super successful club.
Yeah.
You know, kind of you can see the roots and the similarities between 161 and Elsewhere, but
Certainly the similarities when he first opened, it's like, gee,
looks a bit different now.
Well,
But it's also had a long tenure, like it's been around for ages.
it does. And you know what? Benny had a really good formula and it worked.
Yeah.
And Benny is a real music aficionado. He just knows things. He sees things. He's so creative that he's just it's almost autistically creative.
Yeah, I get you.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? But he just knew and he had vision. He's very artsy and very this, that, and the other. And a lot of the concepts that he brought into 161 when we started, we were pulling our hair out, going, "Dude, what are you doing?" But he bedrocked things that started to grow even after he left. There was a certain way that he could see where it was going and what it was doing.
It's probably a good way for me to go into the next part of what I want to talk about. Like I know when you guys first started, you were rubbing sticks together to try to get the joint working.
Yeah.
Your design, like you look at the wallpaper, you look at the carpet, look at the fish tanks or whatever, it's been there for 25 years. You know, anyone who's been to 161 can explain it just by saying like what I just said, and automatically those things will pop into their head. But not only that, you use it in your marketing collateral, you use it in your drink cards, your memberships, you use it in everything. Where did that come from, that kind of original design, and how did you shape that?
I think we all had a hand in designing what we wanted. I think originally, and I could be wrong, I don't know, but we actually wanted it to be a private club, membership fee, that kind of stuff. But very, very quickly we realised Melbourne is not ready for that. And I still don't think Melbourne's ready for it, to be honest with you, unless, you're on $500,000 a year and you wear tailored suits. But it was inspired by, it was a couple of guys, Danielle and Marcus, who had a furniture shop in St Kilda was Surround. I'm not sure. They were really creative and they were good mates with Benny and they suggested quite a few things. And then there was a lot of stuff that was all recycled, like the carpet. The carpet was from the Housing Commission flats.
And that carpet you still have it there today?
Still got that carpet there today. And it was weird. I was having a chat with someone Tuesday morning after the Breakfast Club had finished and they were talking about the carpet. And I said, we've still got rolls of it from the Housing Commission. Like, that's good damn pure wool carpet.
Yeah, good quality from the government.
It was amazing. And that's the thing, it never smells. No, it doesn't smell because it's pure wool. So there's a tip for anyone. If you want to put carpet in your club, use pure wool.
And you don't often see carpet in nightclubs. That's another thing too, which is probably why 161 sticks to mind. You go, oh, the carpet.
Yeah.
There's not many places that have carpet. It's not traditionally something you kind of put together with nightclubs.
No, well, we had it through the whole venue. Now it's just in certain areas. But that, and I think the wall. I think Hank might have found the wallpaper. Hank was big on wallpaper, especially the wallpaper downstairs, the old Russ Myers wallpaper. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Then that was, that's pretty good. And he had a lot of creative input into what it was. I was like, I don't give a fuck what you do, just
put it together,
just make the thing work.
So it's almost like all the stuff you kind of pulled together and all the bits and pieces that were on sale, came from commission flats, just kind of mixed it together and it became like a perfect storm that now is your brand.
A lot of it was, and it was because we were fucking so cash strapped that it was like, oh, look, the op shop, they've got a set of these lights and they're cool. Yeah, okay, let's grab them. And I think that the only thing we never compromised on was the sound system.
Yep.
And that was like, from day one, that's got to be good. And it's always been that way. And that was the one thing that we sort of really wanted to be known for, was that you get really good sound out of the room.
And another thing that 161 is super well known for is its light up dance floor. Where did that come from? Where did that idea come from?
There's been so many bloody stories about the dance floor. I don't know which one's correct. I've got a feeling it just sort of it turned up as it might have been for an event or a function, and it was like, hey, we can get one of these, and we did. We basically bought the panels, stuck them all down, ratchet strapped them together, and like seriously with a ratchet strap on the dance floor because there was nothing around it, and just went, let's have a go and see how it goes, and it looked fucking great. But there's been probably 15 versions of that. You know, at the stage of our first really big renovation, we've gone, right, we've got to make this a complete feature and actually sink it into the floor. So we bought.
Oh, so you used to step up onto it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, the public liability nightmare, mate. But we bought the old basketball courts from Albert Park when they were being knocked down. One of our builders managed to go, hey, I can get these. And basketball courts are bloody hard wearing. They're still there. So all that wood panelling you see throughout the place and around the dance floor was old basketball court. So we laid that down and then built the dance floor in because the one that we had was fucked. And we've had to replace it every couple of years and put new perspex over the top because chicks in their high heels murder it.
Yeah, scratch it out.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's worked brilliantly for 20 years, I think.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, again, like you guys have done so well when, from the interior design perspective, which is something that I don't look at, but I can see the wallpaper in my head. I can see the pattern of the carpet. I can see the light-up dance floor. Yeah. I can see the fish tanks. It's like as soon as I think of that venue, there's not many other venues that I automatically think of things like that are part of the decor in a sense. Yeah. So I would say it's like even though you're saying now it was almost like an accidental sort of mistake, it's been such an iconic and beautiful thing. So I had to hear that story. Second to that, what was it before? So before you took over, what was that space?
Well, it was called High on Chapel, and it was a great.
A lot of people get high on Chapel.
Oh, they certainly do. It was a live band venue, and it had a couple of pool tables in it, a couple of pinball machines. Had on the floor where that beautiful carpet's covered now, it was painted black, and it had someone had spent a lot of time, and we haven't destroyed it, but they'd spent a lot of time doing a mural with fluoro paint. So when you have the black lights on, the thing used to just jump out, scary as hell. And at the time, it was like, nah, not a chance. But and previous to that, it was a Greek card house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I strangely enough, as a kid going to school, I used to catch the number 6 tram past it, and when you'd stop at Chapel Street, I'd look up, and you'd see all these old Greek blokes in the mornings drinking their coffee, and they had big card tables, and they'd just all be playing cards, and they'd do it all day, and it was because there was a massive Greek community around that area, and that was the blokes clubhouse.
Yeah, wow.
And it was fascinating. And when we first took it over, downstairs, which is now the cocktail bar, that was an old hairdresser, barber. And it was an old Greek barber, and his name was Pete. And he loved, strangely enough, he loved what we'd done with the place. It was brilliant. And he was one of the last card house boys.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and they all moved down to Little Chapel Street after it originally closed.
There's still sometimes you walk through those back streets of Windsor, there's still some old like Italian and Greek families around there.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell because I've got all the tomato plants at the front.
Oh, don't worry. There's plenty of them around there, mate, and they own most of the suburb.
Yeah, there you go.
They won't give it up for shit.
So you guys start off and you're talking about working a second job to keep your business alive, which I actually love, right? Because that's something that, again, people think of someone buying a nightclub, they don't think of that. No. And again, I was doing the same. So when I had my first nightclub, I was still working outside of my business because I wasn't able to make enough income to live off it. Yeah. So at what point are you able to step off from your, I guess, day job, which was a night job, to start working in the business full time?
I'd never considered it a full-time job. My full-time job was the Prince of Wales. And my sort of motivation for that was, and it leads into potentially why the club's been as successful as it is. When I got the job at the Prince of Wales, and I got it through a mate of mine who was managing at the time. And the Prince of Wales was run by the Van Handels, the Van Handel family, who, if do your homework, kids, they were the ones that took the Prince of Wales and sort of gentrified it a bit, but kept it fairly true to its St Kilda self, so to speak. And these two brothers and the people that they'd surrounded themselves with were amazing, and that was something that I wanted to know more about and learn. So I spent easily years there just watching how these guys would do it and watching how their management structure worked, watched how they did procedures and stuff like that, and they were amazing. And the people, and that was the key, the people that they'd surrounded themselves with, they were top-notch people. Each one of them I'm still mates with, and I have the utmost respect for them because they're all so good at what they do. Many of them have gone on to other things now, but it was that kind of experience that I needed to ensure that we were successful as we were. We had the creative side covered. We had the business side sort of covered with Hank, and we had the entertainment side sort of covered with Gussie and Benny. But as far as the machinations of it go, as far as making sure that it ran smoothly, that fell upon me. So it was the stuff that I'd picked up from that career at the Prince of Wales that we applied to running the club. And I enjoyed it because even though disco land I'd go into, for a couple of nights a week, it still felt good to pour a pot of beer and listen to something on a jukebox and watch old St Kilda regulars drift in and out of the place and hear their war stories and things like that, and that kind of dealing with that sort of, I wouldn't say it was an underbelly, but it was a kind of, it was a roughish kind of public bar. And then, within 15 steps you had Circa upstairs, which, you'd have chauffeur-driven Rolls Royces pulling up out the front so they could go upstairs and, drop $500 on a plate of food.
Yeah.
So it was for me, it was like, fantastic. And then, of course, with One Love being up there, I got to see blokes like Peter Raff work, who is still, in my mind, there's been no one like him. There probably won't be anyone ever like him. And then looking at bloke like Draw Arez, who ran that band room for so long, and he would put the best acts in there. And it was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I remember how that was at the Armidale before it eventually closed. And watching these people work, you just absorb so much stuff. And I was still in my early 30s. So it was like I'd made that decision that this is what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And learn as much as you can.
Well, career hospo is the term they use. But that, it makes sense. You're sort of learning in this environment. And like you talk about 161, 25 years plus. Yeah. It's one of the longest standing nightclubs in Melbourne, really. Like it's up there in the top 5 at least.
Yeah.
And it's those long-winded nightclubs that go for decades don't exist anymore. They roll over after 3-4 years. Yeah. If you get 6 or 7 years, you get a pat on the back. Everyone's like, good job. So the one thing about 161, which I have to say, every time I bring up 161 to anybody, anytime I brought up this podcast to someone, the number one comment I would have back is, I could never get into that fucking joint. Can you run us, was this a part of the strategy for 161? Because obviously it was the most, you used the term exclusive, but by far it was the hardest nightclub in Melbourne to get to. I remember taking friends for their birthday. It was like what they wanted me to gift them was entry in there, and I could only get one of my friends in. Why did you guys, or how did you guys, or was it on purpose, make that venue so strict to get into?
Probably. So less is more, man.
And so was it like a strategy that you did? You thought, we're going to make it super hard, or did it sort of naturally just transpire that way?
Oh, Danny, I can't remember sitting down with the rest of them and going, this is what we're going to do. Here's the grand plan, because I don't think you can claim that. But it was like, not what you know, who you know. Strange, I know. But it wasn't a deliberate tactic. It was probably a tactic that we fell into. And I think it's because it was also a very late night running venue. And I think a lot of it came from as much, and I will admit it, Razor. You ever
Yeah.
tried to get into Razor?
No, I didn't know.
Mate.
Was it around?
Yeah. If you didn't know someone in at Razor, you had no fucking chance of getting in there. If you didn't know a bar staff member or a host or a doorman or a DJ that played there, nah, you'd not get past the front door.
It's such a crazy one because, like, you know, you look back in those times, like from 90s, 2000s, to even 2010, it sort of died out. The last one really was probably like, the last new one, I should say, was Tramp. It sort of had a door policy you couldn't get into. But before that, there was multiple venues. By far, 161 was the strictest, but it was just sort of common knowledge. You had to like, it almost be kind of added to the adventure. You had to go figure out who was DJ or figure out who the manager was or figure out who the bartender was. Now you look at it in the current landscape that we're sitting in now, like the idea of starting a business like that just seems fucking insane because you couldn't. There's not enough demand really out there to be able to facilitate it. So that's the thing for me is like, it's an old school tactic that was maybe common. I don't really know. Like you talked about borrowing off Razor, but it's like back then, like 161, I don't know what Razor was like, but it was just fucking almost impossible.
Well, look, the main one of the and I haven't mentioned him yet, which I should and give him his due credit, was Andrew Sumpter.
Zoc.
Yeah, Zoc.
Yeah.
He created it. He created, because he was the doorman there for forever, and he was also he could translate Benny's ideas where we couldn't. Zoc knew where he was at, and then after Benny had left, it fell upon Zoc, and then we started to really kick off because of what Zoc brought to the table, and he brought amazing stuff to the table. I mean, you ever had a conversation with him?
I have, yeah. I've been lucky enough to work with him, yeah.
Yeah, you get in with him, mate. He is the smoothest motherfucker I've ever met in my life.
Captain Cool.
He is just, yeah.
And so you go back, I know we talked about it last time we caught up, but I remember I actually asked you, like, was I dreaming when this happened? But I remember going there on Fridays, maybe 6 a.m., knocking on those big orange doors, and then someone looking through like the little panel and saying, "Not tonight, guys." Yeah. And like that was an actual thing that you guys used to do. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, I think that was Zoc.
Yeah, it would have been Zoc. Oh, now I'm not happy.
But he would, and the thing is, Zoc could tell a group of angry blokes that it wasn't going to happen, and they'd all walk away smiling and shaking his hand.
That's insane.
Yeah, and for so long he was the linchpin, and he was the gatekeeper as well, as far as from who got in to who played.
Yep.
And it was the music policy of which I had no idea about. It was the music policy, and Zoc had a really good eye at finding great DJs. And as time goes on, we found Jay Ramon, who had exactly the same qualities as Zoc.
Tastemakers is probably the term, right?
Yeah, and Zoc used to do the door Friday, and I think he used to do it a little bit on Saturday, but Friday was the bedrock night that built us. Saturday night wasn't so much. Saturday it used to be a little bit quieter, but Friday was where it was at. And with Zoc working on the door, he made sure that the right people came in and created that. And then just through the way he conducted himself, people would start to follow on and come in on the Saturday, and then I think we started a Thursday, and all that. So he's really responsible for probably the success that it's been. I mean, we can all put our hands up and go, it's all us. And to a certain extent, as I've sort of said, it was us that was putting our balls on the line each week.
And you still built the space that Zoc created the atmosphere in.
Yeah, and then when it came down to the first sort of renovations and building the rooftop, he was pretty crucial in the way that came about. I think Hank was very much in the design phase of the renovations of especially downstairs. But then we had input from people like Rafi, who was going, "Hey, can we do this?" And it's like, yeah, fuck, why not? Hockers, who I think Hockers was working for some company, and hired out the downstairs when we first got it, and we were going, okay, we've got this shop. What are we going to do with it? And then through him doing, I think he did a water bar. I'm not.
I remember. Yeah, it was like a juice bar or non-alcoholic bar.
But then we sort of started, okay, let's expand. And then the anti-smoking laws came in, and it was like, well, we need to build a rooftop. Let's build a rooftop.
Fuck, man. I remember that, like, early morning, the sun coming through that little alleyway, punching ciggies in there, like, back to back with people.
Pregnancy alley, mate.
That was pretty scary there. Even as a full-time smoker, sometimes I didn't want to have one.
Yeah, but the smoking laws changed the whole game.
Yeah. So the other one too is I got memories, like my earliest memories, maybe I was like 22, 23. I remember going there on Saturdays and there would just be swarms of people. And a term that people would use was like the Studio 54 of Australia or Melbourne. And there would not even be a line. And I remember Zoc coming down the stairs and then you sort of be waving at him like, hey, hey, hey. And then he would just finger point people like you in the line. You get up there and I swear there would be sometimes more people in that line than there was in that nightclub.
You hearing this, Zoc? It worked. Yeah. Hey, at that stage, I would be at the Prince of Wales. So whatever happened, I'm not taking any responsibility for, but
Okay.
it worked. Yeah, he was the bedrock for it, and I think that him and Jay, because I think he took Jay on as an apprentice, and then Zoc moved on to other things, because if you're doing that job, you got a limited lifespan.
For sure, 100%. Yeah.
And then Jay took over and just went boom and took it again to another level. He was found blokes like Tom Evans and Jacob Malmo and these kind of guys that were just a whole new generation came in.
For sure.
So it's one of those things that we can take all the accolades, but I can't really, because it's these people that we've surrounded ourselves with. Going back to what I was saying, it's the people you surround yourself with that make it.
Yeah.
And we've had some crackers that have come through there.
Yeah, crazy. So the other one too is obviously, because it was so exclusive, everyone wanted to get in. A lot of football players or people that I know that are like, maybe C-grade celebrities, they never got in there. Like there was like a part of the campaign was them saying no to people who were probably, in the media or famous. But every now and then they did. There was famous people that came through. Some of the most famous people, I know you had like Justin Bieber. Obviously you said you had Wolf Mother before. There's probably a long list. Is there some others that I'm forgetting that you know of?
Axl Rose.
That's a cool one.
Who was perfectly well behaved and not a fucking diva or anything like that, and just wanted to be treated like anyone else. Gordon Ramsay is the one that blew me away a lot. He was an absolute gentleman, tipped the staff, bought him a bottle of champagne. Rod Stewart and Penny Lancaster were another two that came in that were fantastic. I mean, a lot of celebs have come through. We've had to knock a couple back, which...
For reputation or because they were just too loose?
Just loose. Russell Crowe. I think the Australian Film Awards had been on, and he was fucked. He was that pissed, and it was like, oh, how do you deal with that? And it was like, Russ, you're really blind, mate. I just don't know whether it's a good idea. And it was like, oh, here we go. It's gonna go. I think this is just after the telephone thing too in New York, and it's like, fuck, here we go. And apparently he's just turned around and gone, yeah, you're probably right there. I'll go home now. And off he's wandered.
That's awesome.
Yeah, one or two that we've knocked back that haven't taken it too nicely. But
You leave them for another day?
Yeah, we'll leave them for another day.
So say someone famous comes into the club. So when you talk about famous people, there's 161's probably got the biggest list of celebrities that have come through. Well, at least in that 25-year time frame.
Yeah.
How does it work, right? Do they just roll up to the door, you see them, they come in, or do you get a call from a manager? Like, if you're letting celebrities into your nightclub at 161, what's the actual process?
Get in line, mate. Look, depending on who they are, and I haven't been there at a time when that's happened, so maybe Zoc's the man to speak to about that. But they've been ushered through, And if they wanted a private area, we'll try and find one for them, but we don't promise them anything. And it's like, dude, hey, you want a bottle of champers or you want a fucking couple of drinks, no drama. But, and 9 out of 10 of them were always appreciative more of that than being fawned over. Like Ledger and Heath Ledger and Orlando Bloom, when they were filming Ned Kelly, not only did I have them at the Prince of Wales in Mink every night, but then I'd have them at the club on the weekend. They didn't want to be known. And it was great. And because the place was so bloody dark, no one knew they were there.
That's another thing with 161 too. It's like it's the venue that even if you are in, because obviously the door policy was so strict, that it was sort of on you. If there was someone of merit or famous or like a DJ or a celebrity, not really sports players, that didn't seem to just leak through the door as much. But you were kind of expected to ignore them a little bit. So if Heath Ledger was there, it's his time to have fun, just like you are. Like, and I feel like that was like an unwritten law with 161 that like they're here, but it's all good. We're all together. We're here to have a good time. Leave them alone.
And God help you if you brought a camera in.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
you're out.
Yeah, and I guess when they start to feel safe, that word gets around, and more and more of them come. Yeah. You've been on the street, Chapel Street, for 25 years. Do you have some crazy stories or yarns of the times that you've owned the club that you can think of in your head that you can reel off to us?
Without getting sued.
Try not to.
Try not to. Like I said, I'm probably the wrong person to speak to, because at the time that I would come in there, it was early morning. It was when it was wrapping up, and it's basically the same line that I've said for the last 20 years. I'm in here to make sure no one dies, and that's the way it is. But we haven't had Chapel Street's an interesting joint. I mean, we haven't had anything too crazy happen to us, though we did have one bloke pull a gun very early on in the piece, and he actually let one go in the foyer, and then ran away. And it's like, okay, well, that was the closest thing to a massive kind of drama or any really serious incident we've had. We've had a couple of nasty blues, but nothing sort of untowards. And there's a lot of stuff that's gone on in the club with people and people doing things and stuff like that it stays in there. That's like the footy trip or the cricket trip or whatever it is. What goes on inside there stays inside there. We've always been very fiercely protective about the customers' privacies too. Bit difficult these days with bloody mobile phones, but it's one of those things. If I ever wrote a book, I'd have to change a lot of names.
Yeah, I get you.
I do. I have kept journals over the years of different events and different nights. I reckon that the craziest nights are the birthdays, because they're themed and everyone just tends to lose their minds those nights, and they've always been amazing. I remember we had one year where we had a short person coming in dressed as a unicorn.
Was it Sammy?
And no, it wasn't. It was a lady, and people were freaking out. There must have been something mighty good travelling around that night, because there were people that were just losing their minds about, did I just see a unicorn midget? It's like, nah. God. But yeah, it's the birthdays is when everyone's probably at their loosest.
From another point of view, right, you've seen customers, again, from the 1999, I think you guys started, or 97?
No, 99 hang on. I think we bought it in 98. Because I know that we worked on it for 6 or 7 months before we actually could afford to open the doors. And I think, it could have been 99.
Well, let's call it 99.
Let's call it 99.
So you've gone through, watched it from the late 90s through the 2000s, the
Yep.
10s, and now into what we see today, I don't even know what it's called, the 20s, I guess.
Yeah.
What are the changes that you've seen from people to, music to just owning a club in general?
Shit, you're going to make me think now. The common denominator is people still love dancing. And to go out dancing, and if it's good music, they dig it. Drinking habits have changed. They've certainly calmed down a bit. drug habits are concerning, like really concerning.
And why do you say that?
They don't make them like they used to. And there's a lot of stuff out there that concerns me because we've noticed that ketamine, G's a real fucking concern.
Yucky drug.
Yeah, it's a yucky drug. Ice is also there, but you know we don't find that many people using ice that come in. It's the G and the ketamine. Ketamine's taken over from Coke.
100%, yeah.
As a stimulant, it's like, dude, they fucking knock horses out with that shit.
What's crazy is like you get a lot of people. I actually interviewed a guy the other day and he was talking about crowds in Europe and America and it's happening here now too. But he's like, I'm playing this hard style, hard techno, 144 BPM, like doesn't get much in your face and the crowds aren't reacting because they're on K. But he's like, the drug doesn't match the music anymore.
No, and the concerning part is that, you know, G can kill you like that. You're done. You know, if you've drunk enough alcohol and you ingest the wrong amount of G, you're at death's door.
You're going to hospital.
Yeah, you're going to hospital. Same with ketamine. Ketamine slows you down enough that it can actually stop your heart.
And I've seen people not be able to breathe properly with it too, like their lungs, they're real shallow breathing. So people think it's a bit of a joke falling into a K-hole, but the reality of it is it's not the case. You can actually stop breathing and die or your heart can stop.
And it's younger kids that are doing it. And I think, one, it's because alcohol's fucking expensive these days. And we can get into that if you like, but and ketamine's cheap.
It's a good shout though. Like you say, we can get into it if you like, but it's the truth. Like the reality is that they continue to make alcohol more and more expensive. People are going to go and experiment with more and more drugs and take more and more risks. It's like this whole idea of, I don't even know why they're trying to do it, right? Like I don't even get why they're trying to make alcohol unattainable. But all they're doing, and you know, you're saying it, everyone's saying it, every festival I speak to is saying it, is an intake in drugs and more drugs and shittier and cheaper drugs because they can't afford to go out, but they still want to. It's like their argument is like the government's almost forcing people to experiment with drugs right now. Yeah.
The only decent thing they've done is allow pill testing.
Yeah, true.
In the last 15 years. The whole and it's not just the drugs, but there's this culture that's crept through the youth. And I can say that now as a bloke that's, you know, in their 50s. There used to be the shot culture, right? Which happened 10 or 15 years ago. Let's have another Jaeger. Let's have another Jaeger. Then it turned into Jaeger bombs or Agua bombs or everything like that. Shot culture was a real problem because people just get shit-faced that they'd be passed out in the dunnies, but you know it would be alcohol. But now there's this, I'm going to get as twisted as I can culture and I'll actually see how close I can go to dying. Now, whether they're subconsciously doing that or they just are looking for that high or that hit that takes them to that level that perhaps they've experienced before, but they'll never get it again. So they just ingest more and more and more. And the next thing you know, they're in a bloody K-hole. And, you know, I've got a manager that's working with them for the next 20 minutes to keep them alive while the ambulance is coming. So that's something that didn't happen, you know, from 2002 right up to, you know, 2015. It's only in the last sort of 10 years that this sort of thing's really taken off, and it's fucking scary. Mate, I've got kids, so have you. You know, you don't wish that on them.
Yeah, and it's weird, hey, like, because like these departments that are putting up the tax hikes and whatever, they're not going to ask the people like us who are working directly with the youth, hey, what's the impact of this? Like, they're thinking the people are stopping to drink, which they are. Like, statistically speaking, they're drinking less. Yeah. But what they don't know is statistically they're doing more drugs. Yeah. And like, they're not asking that question because it's almost like put it in the corner, hope it goes away. But we're the guys at the front line watching it happen.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it every weekend. I see it every weekend, and that's the deeply concerning part. And, you know, they're really good at jacking up the licensing costs, and they're really good. And twice a year we've got an increase in excise on liquor. And I mean, ironically enough, I saw on the news yesterday, Pauline Hanson,
I saw it.
You saw it?
Yeah.
The first sensible thing that's come out of that bitch's mouth ever.
It's funny because I literally said yesterday I saw it too. And I was like, that could save hospitality. Like if they bring that law in where they basically take off the tax excise, it means that people could then charge a normal price for a beer again. Yeah. People would come out in droves. It would probably lower drug intaking. And it's like, I didn't even think about it was an option. Yeah. Obviously, she's not going to get voted in. Like, let's be honest. Yeah. But that is an actual sensible solution to a problem that's happening right now.
Just the fucking wrong person said it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because it's a brilliant, even if they relaxed it, you know, if they've gone, no, we're going to suspend it for a couple of years, because I don't think the rest of the country saw how badly we copped it here during Dan's lockdown.
Yeah, of course.
And how that motherfucker's walking the streets, I've got no idea. Because we were affected, so we had to reset the industry. The industry's basically been reset after the lockdown. And then you've got increased costs of insurance. You try and get public liability on a nightclub for under $100,000 now.
You can't.
You can't. And it's not like the insurance companies at the end of the year when you haven't had a claim going, hey, good work, mate, we'll take 15% off. No. Well, we're going to put it up another 15%.
Yeah.
You know? And then you get the federal government going, oh, excise twice a year. And it's like, come on, dudes. Power's gone up. Everything's gone up.
And the other ones, like people, I've said it before, but people look at the club owners or, you know, the festival people who are running the festivals, and they say, oh man, you guys are ripping us off. But it's like, well, no, like everything's gone up 100% really, like in the last, or, you know, it's stupid amount of percentage in the last few years. Yeah. And it's like, to make what we used to make, it's now getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But at the same time, it's like we got to charge more and more and more. And we know that the prices are ridiculous, but there's nothing we can do. It's either shut our doors or charge these ridiculous prices.
I've had the conversation with other business owners and other managers and gone, if I had to charge what I used to charge to make the margins that I used to charge, you'd be paying $28 for a basic spirit.
So cooked. Yeah, actually insane, isn't it?
So where do you reckon that comes off?
Yeah. There needs to be some...
It comes off the bottom line because the staff is still getting paid. Their super's still getting paid. The GST is still getting paid. Everyone's still getting paid. The blokes that are owning the joints, the blokes that are putting their nuts on the line each week, they ain't making as much as what they used to. And it's only the passion that keeps you going.
And that's why I think we see less and less clubs opening, more and more of them closing, because it's not what it used to be. It's not like necessarily you do it because you love it. It's not because you're out there to become a millionaire.
Yeah, but with a few tweaks of a system, and if we had a strong body, if you could get us all in, if you could get all the nightclub owners and all the late night bar owners in the same room.
It should be easy because they all love each other.
Without trying to fucking kill each other, you might be able to achieve something. And as you and I have spoken about, the only thing that actually worked for them was the lockdowns. Yeah, that's the lockouts.
The 2 a.m. lockouts back in whatever it was.
That's the only thing that actually brought a whole group of us together, and we went, okay, let's just put the guns down for the moment. Stop trying to undercut each other because we've got to unite for this one thing. So if the things that are identified that are the worst is energy bills, insurance, liquor excise. If we could get together and agree there, like the federal government should underwrite at least 50% of the public liability on these things because it's in their interest to have the hospitality industry going. Because, we're a tourist country.
Yeah. So
there's got to be some motivation there to actually keep this industry going. The way it's going, it's done, and especially in Victoria. Victoria's fucked. We've got a 50-year problem with the amount of debt that we've got, and hospitality's bearing its fair share of the brunt of that. So if they could all get together and just say, right, here's what we all believe should do, and then lobby government in a way that can be an effective thing. I mean, anyone from the state Liberal Party at the moment, if they really wanted, kick the boots in, do what they did with the lockdown when Baillieu went 2 a.m. oh yeah, I'll support that. I'll ensure that your late licenses can keep going. He romped it in.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right. Because the hospitality is the core of our city here, or has been. You know, it's slowly
Has been.
Yeah, slowly leaking off. But
You know, we were supposed to. Well, we are. I don't know anymore. We were the leader in hospitality service concept, the whole lot. Now, you go to Queensland, and especially southern Queensland, around Burleigh and all that. You have a look at the places that have opened there. You go to Sydney, and the Sydney bar culture is amazing. It really is. I never rated it much, but then I had a really good look at a few different places around there and just went, Jesus, they've actually got something there.
I agree. They're back on their feet at the moment.
Yeah. Well, half of it's because everyone went north.
True.
All the major players here and in Western Australia. Fuck, you been to Perth? Oh, my God. There's a whole pile of Victorians that left here during the lockdown, hospitality people that have gone over and they're chefs and they're managers and they're staff trainers and everything like that. We lost so much here because we couldn't open our doors because someone fucking sneezed.
Do you reckon we're going to see a recovery, or what do you reckon the future of nightclubs look like currently?
We'll still be there. There's enough here to keep going. I don't think we'll see any new ones for a little while. The conglomerates concern me. AVC concerns me.
They're buying everything at the moment.
Because they're going to destroy a lot of legacy.
So for those that don't know, AVC is Australian Venue Co, and they own probably 200. I reckon by the end of the year, they're probably going to own 300 venues. So
Espy and the Prince of Wales, there's two icons.
Well, they just bought Ely Beach Hotel, and they just bought Jack's. It's called in fucking Cairns. So they're literally every single day I'm hearing about a new venue they're buying. So I reckon who knows where that's going to go, but they're throwing some serious cash around right now.
Well, when they go tits up, mate, there'll be some bargains.
True. We can take them and start running some new nightclubs. Maybe that's the rebirth.
But yeah, well, you know, the gentrification of St Kilda killed everything. And at the moment, Paran is in trouble. Legacy venues like us, Revolver, to a certain degree, Electric. I think that they're sort of in that league now. Chasers. I don't know whether the Emerson will actually ever be a legacy venue because it doesn't know what it is. But those kind of venues I think will remain reasonably solid. But you know, Chapel Street needs some help. The council are blind to it. They think it's wonderful. No, it's not. It's the worst that I've ever seen it. It's just a zoo. I mean, if you walk down Chapel Street at 2:00 on a Sunday morning, it's like, oh, Jesus. I remember that they used to have foot patrols there all the time. Friday and Saturday nights, they'd have two coppers walking up and down the beat. I haven't seen that. You ring the cops now, and because, you know, they can't lock them up for being drunk anymore.
Yeah, I knew that.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know.
What's the point in having you guys?
Yeah, exactly. Especially on a Friday, Saturday night, and pressing like that.
Oh, we can lock them up if they're aggressive. Oh, it's usually too late by the time, you know, you guys get there. Or should I just switch my cameras off and let my security cards beat the living fuck out of them like we used to in the 90s?
Did we?
Where? Well, you know.
Maybe.
People learn how to behave.
Yeah, I got clipped a lot of times by security when I was young, and I reckon it may be the man that I am today.
Well, you might want to edit that one out. I might get myself into a bit of shit there.
Everyone knows it fucking happens though, so that's the reality. Or did happen, I
does.
should say. It doesn't anymore, yeah.
But now, you know, the moment there's an argument starting in line, someone pulls out their phone, what's going to happen?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And you've got to be careful of that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of accountability.
No, there's not.
So another one for you guys is that you've been a recovery club for a long time now. Like, I don't know exactly when you guys got the late license. When it comes to 161, now you are famous for another club, which is an extension of your club called Breakfast Club. It's sort of the last stop shop. So can you run us through what it actually is for those that don't know what Breakfast Club is?
But Ethan McLaren is a fucking genius. Ethan McLaren worked for me at the Prince of Wales as a bartender. It was an amazing, and then we sort of lost touch for a few years, and then he started annoying me. I reckon 10 years ago. Andy, I want to do this thing on a Monday, and it's like, Ethan, that's our peaceful day, man. You know.
Hospital holiday.
Yeah, it's our peaceful day. There's no music. Hank and I can do our work in here. We can plan the weekend. Yeah, but it'll be really good. It's just, and it's like, fuck. And he did not stop for 8 weeks. And eventually I've just gone, Hank, what do you reckon? He goes, yeah, fuck, let's give him a go. Fuck it. And we've gone, right, there you go. And bang, it was on. The first Tuesday after the first Breakfast Club, I just went, fuck, kid, you're onto something here. Okay, when do you want to do the next one? Oh, a couple of weeks. Okay, and it built from there. And as soon as we built the rooftop deck, they loved it.
And so what time does it start? What time does it finish?
8 o'clock.
AM on Monday.
8 a.m. on Monday. Oh, hang on. No, it might be 9. I think 8 a.m. might be when the managers get there. And I think they do. No, they might do. They might open the doors at 8. I'm not 100% sure. And then they go right through till 3 on Tuesday morning.
That's an insane amount of hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of their foot traffic will come from like Circus, Revolver, or fresh heads from.
Yeah, fresh heads.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, they've started branching out into doing Sundays. So they'll start at midnight on Sunday and go right through.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did one.
So they're doing like 32 hours or something.
Yeah, 30 hours. So they did one last Sunday, and I actually worked the Sunday morning and then worked the Monday morning. I'm still a bit fucking ratty from it, but
30 fucking hours.
Yeah, but they go all right. And they've, as a group, they've grown, and their music taste has grown, and it's become a little bit more refined, but they're also very similar to like Zoc and Jay. They're finding stuff that's appealing, and it's encouraging to see, and they're doing a good job about it, and they're starting to get organised, which is even better. and we've always worked well with them. We're very, very practical. We're very sort of, no, this has got to be done this way. It's got to be done this way. And I think just purely through us sort of beating them over the head with no organise, it's rubbed off on them, and they are pretty good. I mean, we still have the mornings where it's just like, oh, dude, what are you doing? But their product is great.
Great product.
And it's introducing a lot of people, to the club for the first time, who are probably starting to drift in on a Friday and a Saturday night after that.
Well, even interstate, a lot of people will come and they'll be like, where's this Breakfast Club?
Yeah,
and they don't even know that it's 161. I sit there and tell them the history, but I'm like, it's here. It opens on Monday, it finishes on Tuesday, and people are like, what the fuck? It's not something that you see anywhere really, but probably Europe, maybe not even Europe.
Yeah.
But people will come and visit Breakfast Club after Revolver, or after seeing a massive act, or with plans of seeing it after a concert. So it's become its own like sort of thing, like it's sort of growing ground that is people are coming to travel to see.
And they are very European. They are very European based in I think their music and in what they do. Like Gabrielle, the mad fucking Italian, and he is mad as a cut snake, this bloke. But there's something about him that actually clicks.
Yeah.
And his influence and Ethan's influence, they also get out and go and see and explore and they'll book acts that you wouldn't normally look at booking.
Emerging talent, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, these guys are great. And so they're really leading into new territory for us, which is great, because it keeps us old blokes happy. but for themselves, they're very good. And you know, I know during lockdown they went and they did stuff at Electric and this like that, which kind of put a few of our noses out of joint, but that's all fine. I think they realised
Home is where the heart is.
home is where the heart is.
So
Let's put it that way.
So my final question. Firstly, thanks for coming down. Obviously,
That's
I
all
know
right,
it's been a bit of a journey, like catching up and working out in times and whatnot. But my final question is, what is the future for 161 and for yourself?
Well, we've got 9 years to go. So at the end of 9 years, the last week, I think we'll just go, all right, everyone bring a tool in with you and take a piece home.
Fuck, that'd be sick.
That's how I'd like it to end. I mean, people have said, oh, you're going to sell, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And it's like, well, everything's for sale, but as you get older, it's about legacy, and it's about what's come out of the venue, and some really fucking class people we've had underneath us, and you know, and they've gone out. Petho, for example. Petho was my 2IC at the Armidale.
So that's Steve Pethbridge from Tramp, yeah.
And he went and did Tramp. I think he did Q-Bar as well. And, you know, Tony Beltrame, who's the fucking managing director of really good bar group or good bar group, you know, and that's Electric and fucking Circus and everything like that. Mate, he was one of our duty managers. So there's that kind of legacy that...
Well, I guess you got passed on to you. You talk about Prince, you talked about the brothers. Yeah, you're now doing that for other people.
So yeah, sometimes the bastards fucking steal our staff. It gets a little bit narky, but, you know, once the dust settles from that and I step back and go, well, okay, he's picked up a lot from us. Anthony Drew, who runs that whole fucking organisation, same thing. It's like, damn it, another one that we lost. But look at what they've gone on to do. You know, we had a bird called Amy Dickinson who left us early on in the piece. She was a great manager, real by-the-book kind of chick, grilled. So some amazing people have come out of the place and have sort of developed their own sort of style. So I'm kind of all right with that, and kind of proud of those people and what they've done, even though at the time when they fucking bailed out of me, I was ready to fucking stab them. But, you know, you got to do it. Zoc, you know, without him, probably wouldn't be here. You and I wouldn't be having this conversation. An integral part of the whole organisation, Jay Ramon, who still battles away every fucking week. And it's like, it's the people you surround yourself with. You know, we've got a bloke that manages Dave Cocaine. That is his real name. And, you know, Dave worked with me at Mink as a manager at Mink, and he's come across and he's brilliant. You know, Steve Dorset, who ran the Prince of Wales and Q-Bar forever, you know, he's also been through the doors. There's been some really fantastic people that have worked for the organisation that have gone on to do bigger and better things, and, you know, gone into other businesses and started stuff themselves. And you know, I'm really proud of what they've done, which is really good. It's a bit of a fucking ego stroke for us. Oh shit, maybe we got it right. You know, I look at some of the things that we've created and seen other people take up that idea and maybe even make it better. A lot of methodology in the way venues are run, based on stuff that we originally published and stuff that managers and staff that have left us have taken with them. And it's like, okay, well, it's IP, but you know what? It's public property too. It's all common sense. And just sort of knowing that and it does hark back a lot to what you want to do. You make that decision. Is this what I'm going to do for a living, or is this going to be a lifestyle choice? If it's a lifestyle choice, you've got 4 years and then you go and do something else. But if you're going to do it for a living and you're going to put your kids through school and it's going to pay for your house, you've got to change the way you think about how it all runs.
That's a really cool reflection, and you're right. So like for me, like as a wind up, I guess to the end of the podcast, it would say is me saying thank you. You know, like some of my best memories are in 161. You know, some are, like you said, people taking away things, that exclusiveness that you guys created. I worked at Tramp. You know, I aspired to be someone that like kind of had cut their teeth.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that I looked up to that worked under your establishment, like you talk about Daniel Vid, Peter Raff, these guys that I look up to. So I guess from mine, I would love to say thank you for this piece of history that you created. And inspired, because that's what it is. You've inspired, like you said, you got inspired by Gavin Campbell. I've been inspired by you guys who have been inspired by someone else, and then someone's being inspired by me. So thank you for the inspiration of creating such a cool venue that I could be inspired by.
Yeah, just before we finish, one of the things that sort of has made me think, and it's one of the reasons why it's like, okay, it's time that people know that this is one of the owners, because you don't know them. But at our 25th birthday last year, there was a guy that approached us, and he came up to me and almost with tears in his eyes said, "Thank you." And he's taken, and I've known this guy for a long while, and he's a wonderful bloke, and he's now got his own booking agency, and he books different places here. He's pretty well known bloke, but he almost got emotional with me, and he's gone, "I just want to say thank you." And I've gone, "What for, mate?" And he's gone, "I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today without this, without what you guys provided." And that was the first sort of comment that actually hit me, and I just went, "Oh, fuck. Wow." Because he's built an agency, and he goes, "Everything that I learnt about DJs, bookings, this, that, and the other, all came from here. It came from this experience, came from working with the people that you've worked with over the years." And that was the first time that it sort of hit me. That's like, oh, fuck, okay. Well,
there's more to this than just making money.
Yeah, there's more to this than, if you'd have asked 40-year-old Andy or 36-year-old Andy, I would have just grabbed my nuts and gone, "Yeah, I'm a fucking king." But no, it's not like that now. As it's got older and it's got more of a reputation, and people go, "Oh, it's your legacy," and it's like, actually, that's worth protecting,
Definitely,
and that's worth hanging on to, and that's worth placing our trust in the next generation of people that we've got working for us to be able to go, take it and move forward, but remember, I'm here if you need to learn about old school ways, because there's still a little bit of old school that you can apply to the modern business.
100%.
And strangely enough, I think there's a little bit of old school creeping back into promotion and events and things like that, and I hope that takes a bit more of a route, because it motivates more people to get out there and have a go.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what the next 9 years look like. I'm going to be there with a fucking piece of jigsaw and probably like a crowbar ripping out some of that carpet from the commission flats.
Oh, yeah, mate. The carpet will be the first thing to go, that's for sure.
I reckon you can auction that off.
Every bastard will be there with a Stanley knife just going, "Yeah, I'm taking that bit."
But thank you so much for coming down today.
You
I
are
really
welcome.
appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.
Done.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man.
All right, see ya.